Now let's check in with the Trump-deranged New York Times, once a serious publication, no longer. Now it's running these sorts of fact checks, objecting to Pete Hegseth referring to the male pilots as our boys. This is what the New York Times' John Ismay wrote. He wrote, "In the briefing, Hegseth referred to B-2 pilots as our boys on those bombers, yet both men and women have been trained to fly them." Josh, I mean, come on. What is going on there? What an absolute idiotic thing to obsess about. I mean, they were male pilots. He was 100% accurate, and just because females have trained on them doesn't mean he can't use gendered language when describing what actually happened.
Rita, the United States military has dropped for the very first time the so-called MOP, the massive ordnance penetrator. They've done it a whopping 12 times by my count. I think 14 based on some estimates, 12 to 14 times they've done it there. But don't worry, the New York Times is on the real story, right? I mean, what an absolute joke. I mean, what an absolute fabulous joke here. I mean, if these people had any self-awareness, they would look at Tempest and Teapot like this and say, wow, are we actually out of touch here by focusing on the genders of the pilots of the particular B-2 bombers, and on the fact that, oh, gee, by the way, oh, yeah, these planes flew 7,000 plus miles to blow the crap out of this most fanatical evil regime's nuclear weapons program. Maybe, just maybe, that's actually the key story here, not the fact that Pete Hegseth is talking about, proverbially speaking, the boys in the planes. By the way, the fact that we have a young, telegenic, well-spoken, well-coiffed defense secretary who's able to talk about the boys in the planes, Rita, oh, yeah, that's why U.S. military recruitment is at its best point in at least a decade, if not more than that.
Absolutely.
This is the whole point of Pete Hegseth. This is why people like me were so gung-ho about his nomination in the first place, because the way he talks, the way he acts, the fact that he fought in numerous post-9/11 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, he won the Bronze Stars there. He is in touch with the young men and women, to the New York Times' point, who are willing to pick up arms and serve this country there. So the fact that he's willing to kind of talk like this, talk like a boy, you know, irony intended, the fact that he's willing to talk like the boys in the cockpits there, that is very much a feature, not a bug, of the Pete Hegseth SecDef phenomenon.
And his own military record is, again, exemplary. And that's something so many in the media do not give him credit for. They just refer to him as an ex-TV host. Now, before you go, Josh, Donald Trump, many argue, should have got the Nobel Peace Prize for the Abraham Accords, but he's not a globalist lefty, so he had little chance. But nevertheless, Pakistan has formally nominated President Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his decisive diplomatic intervention and pivotal leadership during the recent India-Pakistan crisis, end quote there. And Josh, this comes as the Trump administration confirms a peace deal between Rwanda and the Congo.
Look, there's a lot of diplomacy going on the global stage right now. The big kahuna, so to speak, for Donald Trump when it comes to these peace deals is of course Russia, Ukraine. That's the one that he campaigned on, time and time again, day in, day out on the campaign trail. I think that Donald Trump is probably getting a little frustrated with that situation. But yeah, all around the world, you know, we've seen diplomacy in action right now. And look, the fact that Iran has one final opportunity to actually come to the negotiating table, again, they're probably not going to be able to salvage much. Their nuclear ambitions are totally donezo. It seems like if they come to the negotiating table, whatever deal might come is probably not going to result in the Ayatollah remaining in power. But if he wants to live out his remaining years in exile somewhere there, he has one final chance to do so there. So look, the irony, again, is that people say that Donald Trump has no foreign policy theory, no doctrine. He's a warmonger there. He's a Manchurian candidate for Vladimir Putin. He's a fascist, a Nazi. Rita, they have thrown literally everything and anything at this man. But he achieves peace. He achieves peace. He achieves stability there. And as we say here in the United States, just let the man cook. Because by letting him cook and letting his brain just kind of do what it does there and just call the shots like he sees there, the world ends up being a safer, more secure, and more stable place, as we've seen yet again with this fantastic and spectacular operation inside the Islamic Republic of Iran.